Welcome back after the break. Now, the list of the NRO beneficiaries has been released by the State Minister for Law, Mr. Afzal Sindhu. 34 names have been included, including several important names of those of the President of Pakistan, as well as other names. For a deeper analysis on this recent development, we are being joined in the studio by Mr. Farooq Hasnat. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Hasnat. Mr. Hasnat is a political and defense analyst. Mr. Hasnat, we are curious to find out about how you would analyze this recent list that has been released, and also keeping this list in mind, who do you think should not have been on the list and why?
I think I will see it like this. NRO basically violated the basic principles of the Pakistani constitution. That is, number one is that everybody is equal in law. Every Pakistani citizen or whoever lives in Pakistan is equal before the law. And second is the due process of law, that you have to go through a due process of law. There can be no shortcuts. An executive has no jurisdiction to interpret or to stop the proceedings of the courts and to give forgiveness or whatever, or withdraw the cases of whoever been accused. So this was a serious issue, and I think the basic thing is that, of course, Supreme Court, we know that the history, they referred it to the Parliament, and once it came to the Parliament, the people of Pakistan and the civil society of Pakistan refused to accept that, because they thought that this is against the basic norms of justice, this is against the basic principles of fair play, and therefore the Parliament should not pass this into a law, this ordinance. And because of that pressure, the government was forced to withdraw or let it die, because if they don't take any action, which they have decided not to, before 28th of this month, it will die its own death, and the cases will go back to the courts. Of course, there are two pending cases before the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and it's likely that we should not comment on the Supreme Court's future decision, but it's likely that they will send back the cases to the courts. So it will have a lot of moral implications. It will have a lot of moral implications, especially on the ministers, because just a few days back, the Prime Minister of Pakistan said that if any member of my family benefited from NRO, he will resign from his position. This was a clear message to his ministers and to his advisors. Look, these are my thoughts. This is how I feel. So if you have benefited from NRO, regardless of the fact whether you are guilty or not, or whether they were false cases, as it has been said, or that's another thing. The question is, present yourself before the courts, and it's up to the courts to decide what actions to take. So the message is, resign, go back home, and once your case is decided by the courts, you can come back again.
Well, Mr. Afzal Sindhu had said that whatever decision the Supreme Court makes out of these
no, but it's not
courts,
question of Supreme Court. The Prime Minister has said that. The Prime Minister has said it very clearly, and I repeat again that if any member, it was regarding to his wife, but he said, if any member of my family benefited from NRO, I will resign as the Prime Minister of Pakistan.
That was a clear message indeed by our Prime Minister. But also, how do you think this will spell out for the ministers themselves and for the future of the government?
Well, they are under pressure. Definitely, NRO, to begin, was a very controversial law, was a very controversial deal, in fact, between Musharraf and the People's Party. But then once it progressed ahead, and once the details came more clear, then we see a lot of public reaction. And we also, as I said before, complete rejection by the people of Pakistan and by the civil society. So there will be a lot of moral pressure on the ministers and the advisors and the ambassadors. There are a few ambassadors also. So to begin with, I think it's their moral obligation to resign from their positions till such time. And nobody is saying they are guilty. It will be decided by the court. But since the charges have been framed, since it has been reverted, the whole the beneficiary process has been reverted back, so I think it's their obligation moral obligation to resign.
Okay, well, coming back to the point of the money that has been embezzled or might have been embezzled in these, and moving away from the topic of the names in the list, how much money do you think has been embezzled in total?
It's very confusing, because as we heard from the minister and then also from other commentaries, the details are yet to be revealed.
Yes.
Even if it is 1 rupee, the question is that nobody has any right to take the money, and then nobody has right to just, just ignore the whole fact. So it's not question the amount of the money. The real question is whether the money was taken illegally or
and
not.
how it can be retrieved.
Exactly.
So how do you think it could be retrieved?
Retrieved by selling their properties or whatever the court decides, whatever procedure the court adopts.
And is there a legal framework available through which those on the list can be tried?
Of course, the cases will go back automatically to the courts because cases were in the courts. They were already. Of course, there's one aspect, and the defense, they have been saying that the cases have been going on for years and years together. But that's not the issue. There are so many thousands of other people, ordinary citizens of Pakistan, whose cases have been going on in the courts for so many years, for decades. Now, the question is that once these cases go back to the court, then it's up to the court to decide that they have to expedite the whole process. And the government, the present government can also make sure that the cases are expedited and the decision is taken as early as possible.
And we cannot speculate at this moment in time what the Supreme Court might do. Should not speculate on what the Supreme Court might do. Well, the State Minister in his address has said that the President of a country cannot be tried in a criminal case. Do you think that this suggests that any criminal can assume the title of the President?
No. And I think this issue, again, will be decided by the Supreme Court of Pakistan. But there is one aspect that he was not convicted. Actually, the real issue is if a person has been convicted, then the person becomes disqualified for the position. So he was not convicted when he became the President of Pakistan. And secondly, as long as he is the President of Pakistan, even the other cases cannot be initiated.
Right. Well, we're also curious to find out that there are only 34 names on this list, and all of them are politicians. The rest are industrialists and bureaucrats who have embezzled unthought of sums. What fate awaits them? What kind of legal cover will these people seek?
None. Because the cases will go back to the courts. I think at that time nobody was concerned with the name of the people as such, with those names. They were only concerned with certain politicians, the certain party, but you know, the others also took benefit from their situation.
All right, thank you very much for joining us today, and we will continue this discussion further. But first we will take a look at the headlines. We were talking about the list of the NRO beneficiaries with Mr. Farooq Hasnat, a noted defense and political analyst. Stay with us because after these headlines we will continue our discussion further.
And now, as we've been carrying on this discussion for a further analysis on the NRO, we are being joined by Mr. Farooq Hasnat. Mr. Hasnat, thank you very much for joining us. So, Dr. Farooq, I'd like to ask you here that for our viewers, can you just tell us what exactly lies in stock for these political leaders, for these bureaucrats after the 28th of November when the deadline for this NRO expires? You know,
as soon as NRO was introduced in the National Assembly, there was a very strong reaction by the people of Pakistan, especially by the civil society of Pakistan, that they will not accept it. They will not accept it because it violated the two basic principles of the Constitution. One is the equality before law, and second is the due process of law, meaning that once the process starts in the courts, then executive does not have an authority or jurisdiction to just do away with the cases and forgive them for that. So actually there's so much public pressure, there's so much pressure from the people and also from the political groups and parties that government has to do something for this management of whatever damage they have occurred through the whole process.
Right, but do you think, I mean, we were just talking to Mr. Ehsan Iqbal, you were also hearing his statements. Do you think that the Prime Minister is going to follow or, you know, I mean, is he going to lead the way for the resignations of these people? Is he going to do that?
You know, the indicators are that he will, because just a few days back when there were some allegations that his wife took some advantages from NRO, and he said it very clearly, very emphatically, that if it is proved that any member of his family got benefits from NRO, he will resign as Prime Minister of Pakistan. I think this was a message to his colleagues, that this is my stance, this is what I believe in. So if you benefited from NRO, you set aside.
What about the President?
The President
that's a million-dollar question.
No, but the President has protection under the Constitution.
What about after the
Constitution, the cases can be reopened, of course, yes. Or the President has an option that he opts to continue with the cases as they were before.